You know, just because you have the option to leave doesn't mean you should leave, right? Like sometimes the door is open for you to go, but God doesn't want you to leave. Let me explain what I mean. In the book of Acts, Paul and Silas get put in prison. And they're in the bottom of the prison. They're beaten into shreds. They're in the dungeon of the prison, meaning there's mice, there's feces, and all of that stuff on the ground. Midnight comes along and they start worshiping and praising God. The Bible says when they do, the prison shakes. The chains fall off of them and everyone else in the prison. And the Bible says the door swings open. The guy that was guarding the door was at the top of the steps. He saw the door open and he assumed that the prisoners left. So he took out his sword to kill himself because he knew they were going to kill him for the prisoners leaving. Paul screams out and says, "We're here. Don't kill yourself. We stayed, so you don't have to kill yourself." The man comes and bows down and says, "What do I have to do to be saved?" And that man and his whole household gets saved. The power of that story is not that God opened up the doors, but that Paul was spiritual enough to understand that his assignment still had not been complete, so he couldn't leave yet, even though he was in a bad situation. Some of us, we just want to get out of the problem, and we don't know the assignment in the problem. And it's not until you have the option to leave sometimes that God reveals why you were in it in the first place. They were beat and put in prison to save a man and his family. Maybe you went through what you went through to save somebody else. Now, are you too selfish? Are you too concerned about your freedom that you don't care about the will of God being accomplished? There is something more to your pain. If you just went through it to go through it, that's a terrible life to live. I refuse to believe that God puts me through purposeless pain. There's something in this, and I have to have the wisdom and the discernment enough to know when to stay and when to actually leave.